What's going on, everyone? I hope you're having an amazing start to January and enjoying how the month is unfolding so far. I feel like it may have been a slow start for people. It was definitely a slow start for me as I just warmed up. My soul was warming up coming into this month and into this year. But I feel like as January has progressed and unfolded, things have began to move a lot quicker and began to build a bit more of a pace. So I'm just trusting the flow of how the energy is moving and um, trusting that things will continue to expand and evolve and clarity will come when it's meant to come, right at the time that I need it. And I invite you to just lean in and trust a little bit. If you're feeling a bit stagnant right now or you've had a slow start to the year, just trust that as long as you're in alignment with your soul's desires, as long as you're doing what you're meant to be doing, continue to lean in and trust. Keep taking one day at a time, one step at a time, one breath at a time. But what I wanted to talk about was a dream that I had recently. The dream was of my youngest brother, and he's currently 19. And I was going into the bathroom, and he was in the bathroom, and I stormed in with some toothpaste in my hand, and I was talking about kind of the toothpaste running out and not like restocking with some more toothpaste. And he went into the corner of the bathroom and he like crossed his arms and legs and he was like knelt down in the corner of the bathroom and started shaking and he was crying and felt extremely scared. The energy above all else was one of fear and being scared. And then shortly after the dream, I woke up and I wasn't quite sure what it meant at the time. But as the hours of the day passed and I sat with it, I was like, wow, this begins to make sense. Now, the way I see dreams is that I don't take them on face value, on surface level, right? And what I mean by that is the dream wasn't about my brother. It had nothing to do with toothpaste or my brother. Often our psyche, our subconscious mind, uses metaphors in our life. Or sorry, uses excuse me. Still got a little bit of cough from Christmas. It's a bit of a tickly cough, really annoying. Um, but I'm slowly but surely healing. Anyway, yeah, it's not about toothpaste and it's not about my brother and it's certainly not about making a fuss about restocking some toothpaste. So the way I see it is that the universe, the subconscious mind, uses certain experiences and familiar people and locations as metaphors for the message it's trying to send you. So in this instance, the message I took away from that dream in particular was he was a representation of my inner child because he's the youngest out of the three of us brothers. So my subconscious used him to give me a message about my inner child, about the youngest version of me that lives inside of me, my child spirit that lives inside of me. The fear was a representation, the image of him in the corner being scared was a representation of him being in a state of fear and my inner child being in a state of fear. And the conversation that was brought up in that specific dream was one that I did have with him a long time ago about making sure he restocks the toothpaste if he's going to use it. Um, and what I realized was this was a message about how I speak to my inner self. And every time I talk shit to myself, every time doubt creeps in, or I feel negatively towards myself, or I criticize myself, essentially what I'm doing is creating that child to be scared and in fear of me. So it's me against me, really. And so it got me thinking about how do I talk to myself? Because every time I talk negatively, my inner child is crushed in fear and anxiety and afraid. Because the inner child never goes away. The child version of us never goes away. And I said this to a client recently. I said it's like the Russian dolls, right? Each one fits perfectly into the next, and the dolls keep getting bigger and bigger. But the smallest one is still inside there, albeit it's encased in 5 or 6 other dolls. It's still in there. And so the small version of us that's drawn to creativity and fun and curiosity and silliness and exploration and adventure is still in there. Even though we have these big bodies, that small child is inside. How are we talking to it? How are you talking to your inner child? Because essentially, how you talk to yourself is how you're talking to that child. How you nurture yourself is a reflection of how you nurture that child. Everything you're doing is a reflection of either feeding or starving that child. Because that child version of us is the unconditioned, pure soul essence of who we are, right? What did you want to do when you were a kid? Just have fun. Your natural state, for the most part, was to be in high vibration. And somewhere along the way, we got conditioned. Life beat us down. We went through trials and tribulations, and we picked up certain beliefs and certain ways of living. And for some of us, most of us, we made ourselves small so we could fit inside a box and be accepted by other people. But that came with the unfortunate side effect of building inner frustration as we move further and further away from who we really are. And so we begin to resent some of our decisions and resent who we've become because we move so far away from who we actually are at our core. So I invite you to think about, how do you talk to yourself? What are the thoughts you think? Because everything you're thinking, everything you're saying is either nurturing or starving that child. And if you're in a space of criticizing yourself, you are essentially criticizing that child, and the child is in fear. I mean, if you've got children, imagine when you've spoken to them in the past and shouted at them unnecessarily without meaning to, or you've been shouted at in the past by a parent or someone older than you, and how it's made you feel belittled, unappreciated, fearful, afraid. That child still lives inside of us. So I invite you to think about how you talk to yourself and just sprinkle in a bit more compassion and love. Begin to change the way you treat yourself, essentially. And it starts with the way you talk to yourself and the thoughts you think about yourself. Because how you treat yourself will be an example to other people as to how they should treat you. How you treat yourself will set the example for others on how to treat you. So I'll leave that with you for today. I love you, sending you lots of blessings, and I'll talk to you again soon.